And while many people in the crypto space are cheering Coinbase's public listing, our next guest has a more critical view, saying Coinbase's valuation is ridiculously high. Joining me now to discuss is David Traynor, CEO of New Constructs, an investment research firm. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, so we saw that Coinbase had very strong first quarter results, $1.8 billion in revenue, up to $800 million net income, 56 million users, but you are unconvinced this will continue. Why?
Yeah, look, there's a difference between a good company and a good stock. And I think a lot of the investing public has really not been fairly educated on that because there are too many folks, talking heads and investment banks that stand to gain by mixing up the difference between a good investment and a good company. Yes, Coinbase has made a lot of money, but it's nowhere near, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what they have to make to justify the valuation. And what that means is that, look, you can take any stock price and disaggregate and demystify the implied cash flows required to justify that. And so when you're looking at a $100 billion valuation for Coinbase, what you're buying into or betting on is that the company's revenues will be 150% greater than the combined revenues of ICE and NASDAQ. ICE owns New York Stock Exchange, plus have margins that are 50 times higher. So a whole lot bigger and 50 times more profitable. So, look, I'm not trying to say that crypto's not going to be around and that Coinbase isn't providing a good service. It is. It's a good company. But so are shoe companies. And that doesn't mean I'm going to pay $5,000 for a pair of shoes that I can get for $50, right? And so, again, price matters eventually. I know we live in a world where a lot of that doesn't seem to matter sometimes, but look, if you do care about fundamentals, we're just here to shed some light on that topic.
Yeah, we have some images here of Coinbase listing as they share images in the NASDAQ and Times Square. But so you say that margins will drop, and I noticed you also wrote, future profitability could fall when management notes it will meaningfully increase investment in sales and marketing. As well, there will be a race to the bottom in fees, right?
Yeah, we've seen this movie before in the stock trading industry, right? I mean, look, crypto is not really, it's everything. The way things trade is universal. It's not gonna change from the beginning of time, right? You sell something to one person at another price. That's the brokerage business. We have seen this movie in the stock trading business where trade costs and transaction revenues have gone to zero, and there's no reason to believe the same won't happen in crypto. I know plenty of crypto investors who are not happy with the extraordinarily high fees they have to pay to trade on Coinbase. And in addition to that, the super high margins that Coinbase enjoys from these unnaturally high transaction fees is going to invite competition that can easily make almost as much money as Coinbase and take market share. And it's that process that happens iteratively until margins go to zero, as we saw in the stock trading business.
Right. You mentioned that, Coinbase's expected valuation of $100 billion implies that its revenue will be 1.5 times the combined revenues of the NASDAQ, the Intercontinental Exchange, which is the parent company of New York Exchange. Why, in your view, is that unrealistic?
Why do I view that as unrealistic?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of it's hard to believe that any one company would be that much bigger and that much more profitable than some long-standing, successful businesses in a more mature industry. People need to remember that at the beginning and at the early stages.
Their first quarter results, though, are pretty stunning. And they are expecting huge user growth as the crypto industry evolves and matures.
They're still nowhere near as large as these other companies at this point in time, yet the valuation is giving them credit to be 150% of that. So there's a difference between a good company and a good stock. You can make a lot of money, but if the stock price implies you're going to make an infinite amount of money, that doesn't mean it's a good investment, right? So there's a difference there. This is not a binary decision. Do you believe in Coinbase? You buy it, or do you not believe and you don't buy it? That's not what this is about. This is about being, I think, an informed investor. Buy at the right price, right? I mean, there's always a good price for something and a bad price. And what I'm telling people is that the price right now is bad. That's not saying it's a bad business.
What do you think Coinbase's valuation, what do you think the price should be?
Yeah, I think we're talking closer to maybe 50 a share. As opposed to
wow. So right now we're seeing the shares at 300 and I can't see the monitor, but there it is, $328.
That's right. If you're looking at a reasonable level of margins and a reasonable market share in a competitive market, that's probably around the kind that the business can generate profits to justify a price in that range. Again, that's not saying they're not going to make a lot of money. They'll still be making a lot of money. It just won't be overvalued. And this happens in the beginning of every sort of industry, right? Whether it was automobiles or whether it was tulip bulbs. You saw the initial producers see extraordinary increases in valuation early on, only to settle down when everyone realized, oh, by the way, other people can get into the automobile business or the tulip bulb business. So this is not unusual for valuations to get ahead of themselves in the early stages of an industry.
What are your thoughts on some of the diversity issues at Coinbase? Earlier, New York Times came out with reports that several staff at Coinbase left because they felt that they were racially discriminated against. That we saw that when compared to the salaries of women and people of color, they were less than people in similar or the same roles. Do you think that now they'll have to answer to shareholders and that could be a risk for the company?
Look, absolutely. Anytime you've got a stock priced for perfection plus, any chink in the armor can take it down. And it's also not uncommon to see that some of these companies and they're, coming out of really rich private equity rounds. And by the way, the private equity investors valued the company at around $8 billion, just a couple of years ago. So, we're seeing an extraordinary increase. But back to the point, the culture in some of these firms, when they're kind of, their cup runneth over with valuation and capital, can get off course, just as we saw with Uber and some others. And that doesn't speak well to the long-term productivity and success of the business. Again, more risk on top of what is already a very risky investment at this price.
You mentioned tulips, and that's kind of a trigger word for many people in crypto because they've heard this narrative over and over again. Bitcoin is tulip mania, but we've seen year after year and year the price grow to over $64,000 this morning. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin?
I think that Bitcoin and Coinbase, these are meme stocks. Anytime that the investment is a function of sentiment and there's no regard to fundamentals. And I don't blame people for ignoring fundamentals. They're extremely difficult, right? Even if you go to the crowdfunding sites, you click on the offering circular and it's like crazy amounts of information. It's super difficult to analyze and understand fundamentals. And that's sort of what we're trying to do here is just shed some light on what the fundamentals look like so that if you want your strategies to be based on sentiment or to be based on technicals, I got no problem with that. And a lot of people are going to make a lot of money trading Bitcoin and Coinbase. I'm just saying, how about a fundamental perspective to help you prioritize your investments? Maybe you would love to have the best stocks based on sentiment and fundamentals.
So you're thinking that Bitcoin will crash, Coinbase will crash from 300, almost 400 earlier today, down to $50. Is that kind of your prediction?
I think that anytime fundamentals come back into play, both Bitcoin and Coinbase have a lot of downside risk. When that happens exactly, it's hard to say, but it probably will happen sometime in our lifetime for sure.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, Dan Trainer.
Thank you.